Some people go their entire lives with wondering if God is really with them in the dark and the difficult moments. But what if your calling is leading you to exactly those places? So today we are going to talk about having faith under fire and having obedience in literal life or death situations. We are going to highlight a God that goes before you and who is with you in the fire. Thanks for picking up. It is Guts and Glory Collective, and I am your host, Emerica. Today, we have a very special guest with us who truly taught me what guts and glory looks like. So, I would love to introduce Eric Rogers.
Well, thank you very much. To say that I'm honored to be here is an understatement. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Eric is not only a published author now, but he is a retired LAPD sergeant and chaplain. And the most important title of them all, he is my dad.
Yep.
So, I'm excited to have him here because not only did he get to serve Los Angeles Police Department for over 3 decades, but he also got to serve as a chaplain. So that was truly partnering faith and fear together and being able to be a leader in that sense. And his new book that he just published, so he's an author, is called 9 Lives, and it documents his closest encounters with death. This book is probably the coolest book to ever be published because it's more than a picture book, it's a QR book. So, as you're reading these crazy accounts of what he saw and had to fight through and emotional chaos, you can scan the QR codes and it takes you to the body worn footage and dispatch calls, 911 calls. And being a sergeant, he has some crazy, crazy stories. So, he is an LAPD officer, an LAPD sergeant. He is a published author, and he is my dad who has taught me truly everything I know and am today. So I'm so excited to have him as our very first guest.
Yay. Well, thank you very much. I'm so honored. To say I'm honored is an understatement. So I'm very proud of you, and we're going to have a good time.
Okay, well, let's kick this off with kind of go back over 30 years ago. What initially kind of drew you to law enforcement?
Well, I would be lying if I didn't say it was the thrill of the chase for sure. I was going to Oklahoma State University. Um, Law enforcement type of work has kind of always appealed to me. I always thought my goal immediately was to go to law school. And I wanted that not to practice law, but I
Yeah.
wanted to join the FBI, the CIA, DEA, or the ATF. I wanted to do something like that.
Okay.
And then so when I started looking at it a little more detailed, I started looking at different police departments throughout the nation. Local police departments. I was going to Oklahoma State. I went down to Dallas. I went to Houston, went to Miami. I went on ride-alongs with Atlanta. Of course, and my mother lived out here in LA, in the LA area, Orange County. So I came out here to LA and went on a ride-along in LA and Anaheim, San Diego. I looked everywhere, in Oklahoma City, Tulsa. And once I started going on ride-alongs with local municipalities, I was like, okay, this is kind of what I'm looking for.
I'm sure LA probably stood
Oh,
out
we'll
a
get there.
lot more.
We'll,
Okay.
we'll get there.
Sorry,
We'll get there
not
for
to jump
sure.
the story.
Yeah, but as I started looking into that, the local police departments, that's where I was driven to. That's where I was really focused
Yeah.
on. And it was something I'd always prayed about all the time. I was like, God, whatever it is that you want me to do. And I'll date myself here, but I remember when I really started getting focused on police work. Here I am living in a little tiny town in Oklahoma, and I remember putting on my Sony Walkman, and I would listen to this. There was
I'm going to say 90% of the listeners have no idea what a Walkman is, but
pre
that's okay.
pre iPod. How about that? So I would listen to this music, and I could still remember the song. It was it was a rap song, but had a little anti-police sentiment in it.
Okay.
So it was motivating. So here I am running around in Oklahoma listening to my little headphones. But I kind of, as I paid attention to certain things in my life, I noticed that I was always turned off by injustice.
Mm.
It really, really just, it didn't sit well with me. I didn't like to see people not
Mm.
treated right, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't like people taking advantage of other people, whether that be through force or fear,
Yeah.
or if that was taking their property. You know, I didn't like to see people being
Mm.
taken advantage of. So,
Okay.
you know, even one of the 7 things that Jesus hates, it's listed in Proverbs, is one of them is injustice. You know, Jesus was always a big proponent of justice, and so
Yeah.
that was a big thing, and I didn't like that. But also just the adrenaline factor, and just, it's like every little
Right.
boy plays cops and robbers.
Yeah.
I just happened to pick the cop side instead of the robbers. But um, yeah, just the thrill of the chasing bad guys. And then when I went on ride-alongs,
Oh yeah.
I was
Exposes you to a whole new world, I'm sure.
it was. And then when I went on ride-alongs with LA, it was over at that
Yeah.
point. And I knew I was in touch with God, meaning I was in constant conversation with
Yeah.
Him. So it wasn't something I just decided on my own.
Right.
But when I was really in touch with it, I just God led me to where He needed me to
Yeah.
be, and that was going from a little town in Oklahoma to policing in one of the
Right.
most violent cities in the United States.
So you touched a little bit already on your faith
Mhm.
back then, but how do you think how did your faith kind of get you to make that decision? I guess you just kind of always felt that call from God, or what did your faith look like before you ever put a badge on?
Well, fortunately, my parents always took me to, growing up in Oklahoma, we went to church every Sunday.
Mhm.
So the foundation was always there. It was built for me, by going to church and knowing who my Savior was at an
Yeah.
early age. So I was very fortunate with that.
Yeah.
But I have to say, too, in my mind, as elementary as it was, I knew that there's a God.
Mhm.
And I knew one day I would meet Him.
Yeah.
And it was very simple to me. What I learned and what I believe is that Jesus Christ died on the cross for me.
Yep.
Like, if He, that's the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
If He died for me, I'm going to serve Him.
Yeah.
I'm going to give my life to Him, and I'm going to dedicate my life to serving Him.
Mhm.
So I did that at an early age. I may have not have verbally stated that in a way,
Right.
but my mental concept is I always knew I was going to serve, and it wasn't out of obligation. You know, I didn't feel compelled to. My
Yeah.
parents didn't beat the Bible over my head, but
Yeah.
it was more out of not obligation, but just obedience. As I
Yeah.
wanted to serve Him,
Yeah.
you know, and it was my level of respect towards God was just, that was always my driving force, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
And
good.
yeah.
Would you say that there was a moment early in your career when you realized that this job specifically would require a lot more than just like physical strength?
Yeah, absolutely. When you are working the streets of Los Angeles, you quickly, or I at least quickly, saw what evil is, and the amount
Yeah.
of violence that you're exposed to. I mean, here I came from a small town in Oklahoma. Now I'm
Right.
not only in a large town, but I'm a policeman
Right.
policing a city of Los Angeles. The amount of violence that you're subjected to and the evil is credible. People, just from the mere fact of you wearing a badge,
Oh,
they
yeah.
have hatred towards you.
Right.
They want to challenge you. They want to challenge you physically, by fighting. They want to take shots at you, literally.
Yeah.
They want to not comply with orders. So
Right.
it was just something that was a little mind blowing at first because of the level of defiance towards law. That wasn't something I grew up with,
Mhm.
but I quickly learned. But as far as having more than physical strength, um, the best officers will be very well rounded. They'll
Mhm.
be very educated. They'll have physical strength, but they'll also have be in touch with the Lord too, because
Mm.
that's where your ultimate strength is going to have. You know, physical strength will get you so far,
Right. Right.
and it definitely helps. But I think having the whole physical strength, the mental strength, and this and the spiritual
Spiritual.
strength for
Totally.
sure is what helped me.
Totally. Okay, well, to wrap up on kind of where you came from and the streets that built you, what would you say is one thing that surprised you early on becoming a police officer or walking into that new world?
Yeah, you know, I look back at that, and even I allude to that in the book a few times. Is it was what really surprised myself was my ability to adapt,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is my ability to pick up on police work,
Mhm.
pick up on being a proactive police officer, a very
Yeah.
active one, not just reaction. I don't like police being reactionary,
Mm.
meaning we go to where we're called to. I like to be the proactive aspect, go out and look for crime, look
Right.
for bad guys before the crimes happen.
Right.
And you know, based on, I had good training officers, came from Los Angeles Police, one of the probably one of the most premier law enforcement agencies in the world. The training that we had was paramount. But it was I think what really helped me out was a couple of things, and that was my ability to really pick up, being able to read people, being able to sense, having
Good
that other
judgment.
sense of,
Yeah.
yeah, good judgment was a big thing. But I think another thing that really kept me safe, and not think that I know kept me safe, was my ability to shift and to transform very quick. In other words,
Mm,
I've always had affection for people. I
yeah.
can talk with anybody. I have empathy for people. But it was my ability to shift gears real quick. And what I mean by that was being able to take care of yourself in a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of officers, it takes time to do that, but I think that that's what saved my life, literally,
Right.
is being able to pick up on those cues and being able to shift gears. And then when it's over, be able to shift gears right back.
Yeah.
So that was something that I always look back and think, man, because you can't teach that.
Right.
The police academy can teach you certain things, but it's your ability to read people, react, and then come back to normalcy again.
Yeah. Like you always told me growing up too,
Mhm.
it's there's a difference between being book smart
Yeah.
and having street smarts. And so you can teach someone how to study a textbook, but you can't really teach someone how to be aware of their surroundings and adapt like that. So I would say I probably got that quality from you.
Yeah, you do. You
But
definitely have that good. That was something I always prided you on, is
yeah.
you had the street smarts, but it's you have to have that. And as a police officer, I think one last contributing factor was, I don't know if the best way to describe it, but it's kind of like the inability to sense fear.
Mm,
You can't be fearful, especially when police, because
wow. Yeah.
criminals, just like sharks, they pick up on that fear. And you
Mm,
can't walk into a situation and look at fearful, because you're the last line of defense for somebody.
that's
So
crazy. Yeah.
you need to walk in there, and you need to have the confidence,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to exhibit that confidence,
Yeah.
so that you can handle the
That's
situation.
crazy to put. Yeah. Yeah.
When you walk into a room and you have five people that want to do nothing but just tear you apart, and you're in there, and you
Right.
are like, it ain't gonna happen. So you
Yeah.
just gotta. You can't have that fear. That's not the time to have fear.
Right.
Maybe when you're driving home after work, maybe it sits in a little bit, but that's not the time to have fear. So
Right.
I think that was a big thing that the Lord helped me out with, is just your inability to sense fear at that time. Maybe it was a little naivety, maybe it was
Yeah.
a little craziness,
Yeah.
and as you get more time on you, then you kind of put yourself in where you're in situations where you
Yeah.
kind of welcome that. You don't really mind it, because
Right.
you know.
Okay, well, I want to kind of jump more into how this became less of a job and more of a call. When do you feel like you had that moment where you knew that this was more than a job?
Well, again, there's so many things when I reflect back on. It's like I really knew that from day one, but
Hmm.
I couldn't put that into words. But
Right.
as I grew and mature and I look back, it's like, well, man, I kind of always had that.
Hmm.
Maybe I didn't articulate it, but I think, to answer your question, I think one of the things that really, when I knew I was in more than a job, because I always tell the officers, police work is not a job. It's more than just an occupation.
Yeah.
But I think when I really understood that is when I started looking around. Man, LA is so diverse. And that goes with the officers as well. We go to training days. It was an agency made up of almost 10,000 when I came on.
Dang.
And we go to training days, and I just tell my buddies next, look around.
Yeah.
Look around in here. There's people every shape, size, color,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a trip, but I look at them, and the more I worked around these officers, every one of them, some of them very quiet, some of them more boisterous, some of them loud, just
Hmm.
different people. But what I found out, that everybody, when the call goes out, every one of these guys or gals in here
Hmm.
will go take care of business.
Yeah.
Though they're willing to go and in harm's way to protect someone they don't even know.
Right.
That takes a special
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
That takes a person it's not just a job, that's a calling that God has put them in. Because
Yeah.
there's
You're
police
putting
work.
your life on the line to go serve a stranger.
Absolutely. And there's officers they'll do anything. They put themselves in that position.
Yeah. Right.
There's a police work. I always tell the officers too, that's a job that 99% of the population can't do, nor should they be doing.
Right.
And that's why I always pride the officers and tell them, I say, hey, listen, what you're doing is not just a job or a career, but it's an act of obedience towards the Lord. The
Right.
Lord put you in this position. So I always applaud them and tell them
Hmm.
that, man, you are being obedient to what God has called for you in life.
Right. Okay, so then how would you integrate being a chaplain? First, can you give an example or can you describe what a chaplain is for those of us who do not know? But how did being a chaplain change the way that you saw policing?
Okay, you have chaplains. So the military and police agencies, and fire departments too. To some of them have chaplains, and chaplains
Okay.
are basically what I always describe as ministers in the workplace.
Mm,
So a chaplain does everything that a pastor would do at a church.
okay.
So we do the hospital visits, we do the funerals, we do weddings, we do ministering and counseling. Anything
Mm-hmm.
that a pastor would do is something that a chaplain does. So again, I
Right.
think an easy way to define it is a minister in the workplace.
Okay.
So I didn't become a chaplain until a little over halfway into my career. And looking back, did I have the ability? Did I have the qualifications when I first started? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny. God works the way he does.
Yeah.
And, I was going to a large church in Southern California, and I was part of what they called their hospital and ministry and care team.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would get a call and say, hey, can you go see somebody who just taken to the emergency room after an auto accident?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know the people that I was going to see.
Right.
So I was basically doing hospital chaplaincy work. And then when I started really thinking about it, I'm like, God, I have such a heart for people, and especially for the officers who I'm around all the time. And it was real clear as God said, it's time to step up in your role now as a chaplain.
Mm.
And so the mistake I made was reached out to our chaplain coordinator, say, hey, what
Yeah.
does this entail?
Yeah.
And the next thing you knew, I had an officer from a division say, hey, there's a chaplain around here asking questions about you. I go, oh, yeah, he's just doing a little bit of a background. So
Yeah.
anyway, it happened fast, but I had always kind of done the role as a chaplain, but I thought, I should probably be doing it for the people that I
Yeah.
am around the most.
It was a natural transition over.
Very, very
Good.
much so.
Yeah.
Um, so as a chaplain, our job is to care for the officers, mostly on with a spiritual well-being. And to answer your question, it was funny because again, did I have the qualifications when I first started off? Yes. But why did God? I always looked. Why did God?
Right.
Why was it that it took me 15 years to become one? And then a pastor told me, one of his sermons one Sundays is that God can see way down the line.
Yeah.
But sometimes that plan for your life is revealed one step at a time.
Right.
Why is that? That's because if he told you, or if you knew what the plan was all the way down the line, you would be either overwhelmed,
Right.
you would give up, you would be stressed, the anxiety would set
It would
in.
lead to your own destruction. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I like the way that sermon was put. It's like God will give you just what we need. That's why even in the Lord's Prayer we say, "Give us this day our daily bread."
Right.
So I think God was just shaping me.
Yeah.
I know he was shaping me and allowing me to grow into that spot to be a chaplain.
Right.
And what was cool is I already had the street credibility now. I already
Right.
knew God needed me to mature. He's like, become an officer, become a supervisor.
Steward that well first. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I had so many different assignments. I was so well-rounded. I got to be a detective for many years. I've worked every assignment in LAPD.
Yeah.
And God said, that's what you need to do first.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a true understanding of that police work, not to mention did I have the credibility with the officers. So when the
Absolutely.
officers, when I would come to them or when they would be in assistance, they knew, okay, hey, this guy gets it. He understands me, or she understands whoever. And that way it was so easy to communicate with them.
Yeah.
So I think that hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. It's truly like such a good visual of do well with even what little you're given and watch how the Lord can just multiply that. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see how that has been, his hand has been over your life from the very beginning, and you have had that confidence that it has been. But do you feel like at any point it had been hard to wrap your head around law enforcement and faith kind of coexisting?
No, not at all. Being a chaplain gave me more opportunities. In fact, it increased me because it increased my ability to grow in faith,
Mm-hmm.
because here I am stewarding all these officers now too. So it was incumbent on me to to be on top of my game. It gave me a lot more opportunities too, because being in the chaplain role. So I'll back up to and say, like, I was still a police sergeant, so I was still doing my police work. Chaplain was just an ancillary duty, meaning when a need for a chaplain arises, I just basically put on a different hat
Mm-hmm.
and handle that. No extra pay, nothing
Right.
like that. It's just you do your job, but when there's a need for a chaplain, we're going to call upon you.
Yeah.
Um, so it gave me the opportunities, obviously, being the minister in the workplace. I had opportunities to interact with the officers and to share faith,
Yeah.
but to also help them with anything that they're struggling with. So
Right.
it definitely opened the door to opportunities a lot more.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to hear, like, especially with your book, I'm sure you highlight this at some point, but do you have a specific example that you can highlight of when you know that God positioned you exactly and planted you exactly where you are for a reason much bigger than yourself? Do you have like a specific story, example? Can you describe any of those seasons for us?
Well, there's a Bible verse that's always been my favorite one, and it's from Romans chapter 13. And I wrote it with you because I wanted to share it with you today. It says, "For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer." So
That's good.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. What we would do is when if we did any search warrants ever at a Rusty's house, like we especially working narcotics, we would do search warrants a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, we'd find a Bible in one of the residences, and we would open it up to Romans 13, and I'd make sure it
No
was
way.
wide open for them when they came home.
Oh.
But you know, to answer your question a little bit, is I always had love and empathy for people, but I also know the importance of having a civilized society,
Yeah.
and policing is a very integral part of that. Um, so I just I knew God. I have to say, and I've always said this. I was very fortunate early on in life to know what my true calling was, and I
Mm-hmm.
thank the Lord for that, because I know a lot of people struggle with finding either their identity or what is it that I'm supposed to do. And my encouragement for people would like that would be to continue to focus on that with the Lord.
Right.
Pray about that continually. And when you think you have it and a door gets shut,
Yeah.
that's not the end. You just pick up and you keep going. That's called resiliency,
Yeah.
because you're going to get knocked down in life. You're going to get shut doors,
Yeah.
but it's the person who can get back up and continue to either find that open door or find another door where God wants you to do.
Yeah.
That's the person that's going to succeed.
Right.
So fortunately, I was lucky early in life to know that my calling was being a police officer. But for anyone who doesn't have clear direction right now, you won't find it on your own.
Yeah.
Continually seek the Lord to have Him give you direction.
Right. Well, I know we got to highlight a little bit how your job is more than a job, it's a call.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to kind of move into a close call. So, this is the tension point. This is where I want to talk about the moments where we may have missed God, or um, moments where we maybe didn't see Him moving. So, is there any instances where you felt like you didn't understand that God was protecting you? Like, looking back now, it's evident that his hand was upon you, but in the moment then you didn't realize that it was God's shield around you.
Yeah, and that's again early on when you're younger, it may be a little bit more difficult to see it, but as you grow in maturity and you have the opportunity to look back, then you just like there's so many times I look back and just man, thank you God.
Mhm.
In
Mhm.
fact, in the book there's 9 times that you'll read about it, but that was always the joke at work is the guys that say, "Hey Sarge, when I told them I was writing a book called 9 Lives, they're like, I think you used 9 lives in the last year, but I,
Yeah, I was going to say I'm pretty sure there's a lot more than 9 lives that were challenged in there, or in your life,
yeah.
but you only had enough pages to document
Well,
9.
I already had it titled, so I couldn't change my title.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I kept it. So,
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
in your book,
Uh huh.
good time to bring it up. Is there one moment in there that stands out as like the best chapter to read, the best story to read? Can you highlight anything of what happens in there for us?
I think it's chapter 2, but I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Chapter 2, I think, is the one that the most of the readers really resonate and sit on the edge of their seat with, and that was early in my career. I had just gotten engaged. You were You weren't in the picture yet. I
Yeah.
was just getting engaged.
So how old were you at this point then?
Let's see. It was April 25th, 1997. So I think I had 23, maybe 27. I think I was something like
Dang.
that. 27 years old.
Uh-huh.
Because I came on the police academy when I was 23, 22, 23, and I think I was about 27 or whatever. Just got engaged. Life was going perfect. Um, I was working down in South LA with a buddy of mine, incidentally, kind of ironically, another guy from Oklahoma. And we were driving down the street one day and we saw a car that we had been looking for. It was an 85 Oldsmobile Cutlass.
If there's anything you guys need to know about how my dad tells stories, it is that he can tell you dates, like locations, times, colors, first and last names, everything to a T, but he can't remember what he ate for dinner yesterday. So
And that's still true. That's still very true. Yeah, that's 85 Olds Cutlass. It was brown, and we had been looking for this car because it was used in a murder in one of the housing projects. And me and Chris were driving down the street. We were only 2 blocks from the police station. And lo and behold, I saw the car. And I said, Chris, there's that car we've been looking for. And there were 4 females inside. So we were like, well, it ain't the shooter, but it's probably his girlfriend and her friends.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't want to burn the car.
Yeah.
We thought, well, we'll just pull over the car. We'll
Yeah.
get all their names. We'll pass it on to detectives. But we don't want them to lead on. We don't want to lead them on to know that, hey, your car, we know what's up.
Yeah.
So we just played it nonchalant. We're getting ready to pull the car over. As we're getting ready to pull the car over, I see this younger kid. He comes out of the liquor store right on the corner. And he looks right. He looks left, sees our police car, and runs back in. I'm like,
A little suspicious.
Yeah. Something's going on. So we pull over the car, and I tell Chris, hey, Chris, you walk up to the car. Get the girls' names, we'll just downplay it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll keep an eye on the kid inside.
Okay.
So I'm sitting at the threshold of the door, or the opening of the liquor store, and there's about 4 guys in there. And there's a local gang right there. They were the Broadway Gangster Crips. It's right in there, right in the middle of their turf. And so there was 4 of them in there, all dressed down, and they're blue. So I'm like, okay, well,
dead giveaway.
something's going on in here. I stumbled across something by the looks of that kid that ran in there when he saw us. So they didn't know what to do. They kind of walked around, and one of them decides, he goes, hey guys, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. And when he walked out, I let him go because it wasn't the guy that I had seen jump in. I really didn't,
Yeah.
So
you had your eye on someone else.
I had my eye on the other kid. So he walked away, and then that individual thought, well, he ain't gonna do nothing, so I'll just leave too. And as he started walking out of the liquor store, I grabbed onto his shirt and said, hey, I want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I grabbed onto his shirt, he slung to the side, and he left me hanging a flannel in my hand, and off to the races he went. He took off. And so again, I didn't know if he had maybe narcotics on him. Did he have a gun on him? Were they in the middle of going to rob this liquor store? But I wasn't one to turn down a chase. So as soon as he took off running,
you have no reason to run if you didn't do anything wrong. So
that's my theory. That's my theory. And again, you don't have to tell me twice. If you're gonna, so the game of cops and robbers was on. So I was chasing him, and the ironic thing is we're only 2 blocks from the station, but it's a pretty rough area. So he takes off running. I'm running after him. I'm telling him, stop. And as he's getting ready to take off running down an apartment complex down the center, like the courtyard area, he slips and falls. And I kind of push him at that point, thinking, okay, he's going to give up. Most of the times, okay, the gig's up. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. I give up.
Yeah.
Not this kid. He comes up and the fight's on. And our momentum kind of carries us into this breezeway. It's an open breezeway of an apartment complex, 2-story apartment complex. And meanwhile, Chris, when I took off running, I yelled out, Chris! So he's in the middle of talking to the girls. He looks up and sees his partner taking off. He's like, oh gosh, I guess I got to go. So he jumps in the police car and is following up behind us. And so I ended up tackling the kid. We started fighting. And at some point during the struggle, he pulls out a gun. And so once he did that, then I became fixated on keeping that gun away from me.
Yeah.
So I grabbed onto his wrist, his left wrist, because he had it in his left hand. I grabbed on his left wrist, and I'm trying to keep the gun away from me as I'm trying to. And in doing so, I kind of was so fixated on getting that gun that I kind of got myself in a tactical disadvantageous position, we'll
Yeah.
just say. In other
Yeah.
words, he turned on me and he was basically on top of me while I was on my back.
Yeah.
And at some point, the struggle kept going. And at some point, again, some people always say, oh, when you're involved in an officer involved shooting, things just go in slow motion.
Right.
That may be the case in certain, and it has been the case in other times that I've been in, but not this one. This one, it just happened so fast. And at some point, I didn't consciously make the decision, but I pulled out my gun. And that was just, again, that was just,
Yeah.
thank goodness.
Instinct.
Yeah. And thank goodness for your tactics and your training. But
Right.
he puts the gun in my face and I fired twice.
He
And
puts the gun to your face.
his gun, yes. I was fighting him for it, but I just kind of, just during the struggle, he broke free and put the gun to my face. And
Mhm.
I ended up firing my weapon and I had obviously shot him at that point.
Yeah.
And when I stood up, I felt an intense pain on my face,
Mm.
and I felt it, and my face was just gushing with blood.
Ugh.
And I thought to myself, gosh, I still remember telling myself, he beat me to the punch. And
Mm.
I was so aggravated at myself
Yeah.
because I gave him all the time in the world to give up.
Yeah.
Too much time.
Yeah.
And then I just was so disgusted with myself that he beat me to the punch.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, I just got engaged. I ruined that,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, crud, what do I do now?
So you're thinking that you said you have intense pain, but
Mhm.
you're thinking you got shot and your adrenaline's just pumping so
Right.
much that you're just now walking with blood dripping down your face
Exactly. And that's why I thought, man, I guess.
as a 27-year-old.
Yeah. And that's when Chris pulled up and he comes running up to me. And I'm well, I guess I'm going to go into shock next. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
And so he comes up, he goes, just holster up. So I did. He goes, let me see. And he walks over and he
Mhm.
looks, he wipes my face. He goes, no, you just need stitches.
Come on.
And so I didn't know if that was his,
Downplaying.
yeah, like, hey, a little
Stay
reverse
with me,
psychology.
buddy.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I thought. But he
Yeah.
said, no, just trust me. You just need
No
stitches.
way.
And that right then when he said that, man, it was just like a gust of air just came right. I mean, just right, a whole new person.
Right.
And I was able to focus on that. And I knew,
Wow.
yeah, it was tough being this younger kid. It's unfortunately, that
Yeah.
it led to this.
Right.
And a couple days later, I find out that his father was also not. A couple days later, I found out that just a few years prior, his father had been shot by the police after
Wow.
he had shot at the police officer and tried to kill him. It was
Wow.
just a very, obviously, maybe a dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
But it was a heavy situation. But I look back on that and I think, God, you just, I knew. I was like, if it wasn't concrete evidence, I
Yeah.
knew then that God had a purpose and a plan for me.
Totally.
But guys ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, did that incident had to change you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you came to Christ?"
Yeah.
Like, no, it's really not.
Yeah.
Did it change me? I'm sure it did to a degree, but it did nothing but make me stronger.
Right.
I didn't
Yeah.
find the Lord because of that.
So what can you attribute that to, though? Like his gun was to your head,
Mhm.
but it didn't fire.
Yeah, well, here's something even more interesting. Is the detective who investigated that said, "Hey, son, you're a lucky young officer."
Mm.
Well, with all due respect, I understand that.
Yeah.
I know that. He goes, "No, you don't understand how lucky you are." I go, "Yeah, I think I do."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "No, you don't." And he showed me the bullet from
Jeez.
the young man's gun,
Yeah.
and it had on the bullet. There's a thing called a primer. That's where your firing pin, when you pull the trigger, a firing pin strikes that bullet.
Okay.
And then the bullet discharges. The firing pin had struck his bullet and left a dent on the primer,
Stop.
but it did not expand. The bullet went off. We call it a bad round. He had a bad round in his gun.
What?
The chances of that happening
Yeah.
are so few and far between.
Right.
So essentially, I
But-
gave him all the chances in the world, but I look at that and I just say, God, I don't. It wasn't something that just freaked me out. Like, oh my God, it was something where I just look at God when I'm.
Yeah. Boil it down to a miracle, and
Yeah, you could, but yeah, and I hate to use the word miracle, but it was one of those things where I just talk to God on my own time. I say, God, thank you
Wow.
very much,
yeah.
and And I do that quite frequently, but
Yeah.
it's something that I do, you know, a lot.
Right. So, in a very intense moment like that, adrenaline pumping and literal life or death situation, what kind of goes through your mind spiritually? Because I'm sure your mind is racing to keep yourself alive, but what's going through your mind spiritually?
Yeah, when I was came on the job, when I was coming on the job, and I knew it was getting serious, like I had been picked up to go to the police academy and stuff. I don't want to say I made a deal with God, but I essentially had a conversation with God. That was a deal with God. I said, God, I'm going to work for you 100%.
Mm,
I'm going to do what the Bible verse says. It says, work for the Lord as if, or excuse me, work as if you are working for the Lord and not for man.
mhm.
I said, God, I'll give it to you. I'll give you 100% of my effort. But man, God, working here in LA, I've got to rely on you for strength,
Yeah.
physical strength, spiritual strength, mental strength. So I knew from a young age, and again, maybe I didn't articulate it very well, but I knew that God had my back.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation, he and I, and it's just like, I said, I will do what you want me to do, but
Yeah.
I need your help.
For
And I
sure.
had to constantly rely and go back onto that faith. But, to answer your question, to simplify things, there's a song right now. It's a Christian worship song. It says, God, I'm just thankful for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very simple song. We sing it at church, and I even have it on I have it on my phone here because I listen to the song, and this really dummies down what I think. To be honest with you, is because I'm a very simple person. I'm
Yeah.
not real complex. So when people want to get into very deep theological, I I can hold my ground. I know what my beliefs are. But
Yeah.
if you really want to simplify things, not dummy it down, but simplify things, in this song it says, "Who am I that you keep me on your mind?
Yeah.
God, I'm just grateful for you.
Yeah.
All my life, you've been right here by my side. God, I'm just grateful for you."
Mhm.
Man, that just simplifies for me. It just simplifies. It's like,
Yeah.
God, you've trusted me to do a job that others are not equipped to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I had a pastor always says that God doesn't always call on the equipped, but he equips those who he calls.
Yeah,
And
that's so good.
I tell God, thank you for trusting in me.
Yeah.
So God's lifted up, or he's lived up to his end of the bargain, and
Yeah.
I would like to think that I've made him proud as well.
Right. Were there any moments that stand out to you where you felt like he wasn't with you in the middle of that danger?
Yeah, I can't say that in a sense. When you're in a dangerous situation, whether you're a police officer or another in the civilian world, whether you're in the midst of danger or a dangerous situation,
Mhm.
especially I can speak for the police side of it, but you don't have time to sit there and dissect everything
Yeah.
and to notice, well, this is a fearful or a dangerous situation. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of doing that.
Right.
And I think that's probably out of protection.
Right.
You handle business, you take care of the situation, whether it be a life threatening or whatever, take care of it. And then you can reflect, or in the police world, as we debrief it later. And I think that's been beneficial to me in a sense that haven't had, I've been able to separate having the fear
Yeah.
until maybe at a later time. Then I look back and go, wow, okay, yeah, that was pretty dangerous situation. What did I do good and what could I have done better?
Right.
But I don't want to, I can't recall an incident where I go, God, where were you?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Especially I being after serving 32 years
Yeah.
and after what you read about in the book and stuff, and the fact that I'm still here,
Jeez.
like I don't have any room to question God
Absolutely. Yeah.
and where he was at certain times.
Right. Dang.
I saw how fragile life was.
Yeah.
And I knew as hard as I was pushing the envelope in the assignments that I was in, all the
Mhm.
assignments that I've worked, very, very good assignments, but very dangerous assignments.
Yeah.
I knew that my number could be called anytime.
Yeah.
And,
That's huge.
yeah, that was something me and my wife shared with from before we even got married,
Yeah.
my occupation. And I knew as the tempo that I was going, the speed that I was going, the assignments that I had, I knew it could catch up to me anytime. And I was comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't want to die,
Yeah. The
but
reality of it.
the
Dang.
reality is definitely there. And so it's important for someone, you have to have that foundation before you go into a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Again, whether you're a police officer or whether you're not a police officer, just in life in general,
Right.
you need to have that firm foundation so that you know where you stand with
That
the Lord.
confidence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you're not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah. Dang. Okay, well, we have gotten to talk about your calling, the close calls, and now I want to talk a little bit about the cost and what this has costed you truly, emotionally, physically, spiritually, because working in such a high profile and active and dangerous job like that, I'm sure there is a lot of trauma to take away with it. So, what has this costed you emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of that?
What does it cost me? I think uh, let's combine emotionally and
Spiritually,
no, emotionally and
mentally?
mentally. I think those are kind of, in my mind, they're almost the same. And what did that cost me? Is just, I think I've compartmentalized things a lot in my life. I was never an officer or a supervisor that would ever bring my work home.
Mhm.
I vowed that I would never do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair to my family.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say it's not fair. I mean, they're being a family member of a law enforcement officer is a very unique position, whether you're a spouse or whether you're a child of an officer.
Mhm.
But I think I really compartmentalized a lot of things, and I don't say that in a negative manner. It was just my way of coping with not letting it affect my family.
Yeah.
So I guess you say, did it cost me? Yeah, that because you have to dispose of that somewhere, all of
Mhm.
that stuff that you take in. So if you say you're compartmentalizing it, that doesn't necessarily equate to a healthy thing. So what do you do with that after you compartmentalize it? And mine was my faith.
Yeah.
I knew that my relationship with the Lord, I could dump all of that negativity or anything like that onto at the foot of the cross.
Mhm.
And I knew God would absorb that and say, no need to absorb that. I got it from here. Thank you for giving it to me. Keep moving on.
Yeah.
You know, there was one of our chaplains, a senior chaplain. He says, every day you do police work, it's like you get one drop of corrosion on the soul.
Mm.
And when he said that one day, he said that to me when I was in the police academy. He says, every day you work, it's like having
Jeez.
another drop of corrosion on the soul. Now, it's
Wow.
what you do with that corrosion that's either going to make you successful or not.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
wow.
that can either eat you up
Mhm.
or you can learn how to combat that corrosion.
Jeez.
And when he said that, that was so meaningful and so impactful from way back then.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, when you work in LA, it's just, you know, it's not like people have no concept of what policing's like in a big city.
Right.
Rarely do they have a concept of what it's like in any city, but in a large city, people have no concept.
Mhm.
They think that all the little kids smile and wave at you. In fact, I remember a kid one day, it broke my heart. Early in my career, I was working the housing projects, and a little girl came running at me, just happy as can be to see the police.
Yeah.
And she got scolded and reprimanded by her mom.
Oh.
That broke my heart, you know.
Yeah.
But people aren't people they're not happy to see you in some of the neighborhoods
Yeah.
that you work in. So you know, here I was I'm a loving person. I love to interact with people. I love to I have the empathy for people, and to not see that in return,
Yeah.
that just kind of weighed heavy a lot.
Right.
So, but then again, when I would come home to a balanced family,
Mhm.
when I would, you know, after I got married, and then I had a little girl with curly hair with blue eyes named America that would come running to me the minute I opened that garage door.
Yeah.
You know, even if I worked mid PM watch and it was 4 a.m. and I'd still open that door and here she comes
Yeah.
running with a diaper on.
Yeah.
Those things were that made it worthwhile, and it was
Right.
just easy. So I would just take those. So how did it affect me? I compartmentalized things at times, but I also knew how to get rid of that compartmentalization.
Mm.
How did it affect me spiritually? I uh, I guess I just really had to learn that it was a true meaning of good and evil.
Yeah.
I had been more subjected to good growing up, but there is evil out there.
Right.
And then once I figured that out and understood that and took that again to the cross and took that to the Lord, that was my ability to overcome that.
Yeah.
And it was just hard because when you're trying out there to do the right thing in life, and this can go for policing or not, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to help people out, only to get stabbed in the back.
Right.
You know, I'm trying. Every day I'm out there. I'm doing it to help people,
Mhm.
and yet I get death threats made against my life.
Right. Right.
It's just it's not fair.
Yeah.
But then again, look at Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The same people that were welcoming him, 5 days later, they were calling for his crucifixion on a cross.
Right.
So those are the things you have to, when you put it in that perspective, it's like, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I? You know?
Okay, well, we have talked about how you have quite literally used your guts, but I want to kind of touch on the theme of this podcast is the glory. And so being able to see God kind of interweaved throughout your entire story has been so powerful. But how have you seen leadership change from then to now?
Well, as a leader in the department, as a supervisor, and also as a chaplain, I think the more situations that you've been in, and again, this I always speak in the police world, but it goes to some outside of police world
Yeah.
too. It's funny as my I always teach America and my kids and stuff. I give them an example of life in the police world, but I have to sometimes translate that over.
Yeah.
I'm very good at explaining things in the police sense, but all in all, it's the
It's
same
still
principle,
relevant. Yeah.
still relevant. So sometimes I speak in as a police officer, but in reality, I think it gets translated over.
Yeah.
But being a leader, I really, I always, as a training officer, as a training rookies, I would always want my rookies to be experienced to as many things as I could. Here it is, you have a young officer out of the academy. I
Mm,
always wanted them to handle certain calls, whether it be something minor like a traffic accident, all the way up to a shooting or a homicide. I
right.
wanted them to experience, because pretty soon they're going to be kicked out of the nest and they're not going to have a training officer. They're going to be out on their own. And
Yeah.
I don't want that to be their first time that they've experienced that.
Mm,
I want them to at least be exposed to it. And then as you get more tenured and you be having more tenured position with a supervisor and you have more tenured officers, there's huge situations like being in riots,
yeah.
especially in LA.
Yeah.
So I don't want those officers. I want them to, when they go into a riotous situation, I don't want it to be their first time,
Yeah.
because every time you handle a situation, a call, from a small to a large call, every time you handle it, you get better.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you figured it out, not that you have it overcome or you've perfected it,
Mm-hmm.
but you learn from every time.
Yeah.
And so, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you're going to fail. You're going to get kicked down, but how fast can you get back up?
Mm,
And how fast can you mature, even though you didn't, even though it wasn't quote unquote a success, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So it was my goal always to expose the officers to different situations, knowing that those challenges will lead to growth. Even the book
Right.
of James says, welcome challenges and trials into your life, because those create perseverance,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's so true,
Mm-hmm.
because you only get better, right? So I being a sergeant and a chaplain, I really want to the officers and people outside of the police world, when you're doing something and you run into a hard time, don't lose faith. That's the time when you have to have the most faith. Rely on God. Just so,
Yeah.
God, I'll get through this. And when I come out of this, I'll be stronger. I'll be bigger, better, and faster and stronger when I come out of this.
Right. Okay, so if we were making this personal for our audience,
hmm
what would you tell someone who is afraid to step into what God has called them to?
I would revert back to my last answer and just tell them, if you're entering into any situation where you feel either uncomfortable, uncertain,
Mm-hmm.
uneasy, or if it's a dangerous situation or something to where you don't feel clarity on, seek direction from the Lord. And how can you do that? Read the book of James. It's only 5 chapters.
Yeah.
You can read it in one setting. I tell officers that all the time. Go home tonight and you have a homework assignment. It's read the book of James. It'll take you 15 minutes. And then when you're done, read it the next day.
Yeah.
And you'll start seeing that God will develop you into the person he wants you to be.
Mm-hmm.
He'll give you clarity. God is not a God of confusion.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, he will definitely give you clarity. And if it's something that you just are feeling uneasy about, I would say pump the brakes on it,
Yeah.
hold off on it before you commit or make a decision. And that goes with relationships.
Yeah.
That goes with decisions about your job, your schooling. It can be handled all across the board,
Right.
but you have to have faith and you have to have continual trust in the Lord.
Right.
Oftentimes people will come to us, as we all know, and as a chaplain, I hear it all the time too, is, well, all we can do is just pray about it now. Like,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
that's what you should have been doing from the very get-go.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's one of those things too where God talks in peace. So if he is calling you into something that might seem uncertain to you, that's okay if you're uncertain. That's okay if you don't know the outcome. If you're fearful, that's different.
Yeah.
God speaks in peace.
Yeah.
So you can jump into something not having all the answers while still having peace. That
Mhm.
might be from the Lord. But if you are overwhelmed with this fear and confusion, like you said, God is not a God of confusion. And so it's okay to be nervous going into something, knowing that God's hand is over it. But if he is uh giving you any warning signs too of like that fear, like that's where I like what you said is like pause, let's pump the brakes, let's pray about this more because you want that clarity before going into that season. So
Yeah,
I
I
like
couldn't say it any better than that. Although I would just add on one thing is
that.
that not necessarily is it going to be the easy way. And
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think that's the problem that people get locked into is they
Yeah.
think, oh, it's going to be I'm going to pick the easy way
Yep.
because that's either what's familiar. And, even what we're learning about at church right now is
Yeah.
anybody can walk into a pool into the shallow end.
Right.
But where does it take faith? It takes faith in the deep end
Mm-hmm.
where we haven't been. It's deeper. We can't touch the bottom. We're uneasy about it.
Yep.
But that's how you grow.
Right.
And so I like exactly what you said was perfect, except just I would just challenge the person. It's not necessarily going to necessarily be the easiest way for
Totally.
them. Yeah.
Totally. Amazing. Okay, I want to go into a fun little section of rapid fire questions for you. So I'm going to give you a little fill in the blank sentence, and I just want you to kind of say the first thing that comes to your mind. So
Okay.
it'll be very on brand with everything we talked about.
Okay.
But obedience feels like what?
Willingness as opposed to obligation.
Okay. What about, okay, faith taught me blank.
That I must be continual and deliberately reaching for it constantly.
That's good. Okay. One lie that I had to unlearn was what?
That a little kid growing up in the middle of rural Oklahoma in a town of less than 7,000 people could come out and be successful policing in a city of 5 million
Yes.
people. How about that?
Amen. Okay. And then last one. One time that God really showed up was when.
Every time, but it would be when I would take the time and stop and be intentional to actually recognize that.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Well, if you listened to this and you are standing at the edge of something uncertain or unclear, I want to remind you that God would never call you into a place that he hasn't gone himself. So I want to say thank you to our guest, Eric Rogers, my dad, and give a little shout out again to his book, 9 Lives, where you can purchase at lapd9lives.squarespace.com. So, thank you for teaching me what it is like to live with both guts and glory, and thanks for sharing with us today.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm very proud of you. You make life easy as a father
Thank you.
and fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Share this episode with somebody who needs to take a risk, and we'll talk to you soon.